What's up, everyone? Welcome to today's video. Welcome to the Video Game Fight School channel. Thank you very much for tuning in. So one thing in Gotham Knight's conversation that seems to have maybe fallen off the radar, just falling through the cracks, is the AI. We've gotten to see a lot of gameplay. So I think from here, we can try to maybe pull some of the things that we've noticed about AI. One of my audience members said, man, they just basically laid it out on me and said, one of the biggest frustrations I have is like, no one is talking about the AI in this game. It seems everyone is ignoring it. Now, far be it from me to ignore a game mechanic that I'm aware of. But the honest truth is, I was paying attention to all of these other things. I got tunnel visioned and did not necessarily pay any attention to actually notice, study, or observe some of the AI behavior and patterns and talk about it. So in this video, we're going to look at some things that are pertinent to all of that. Now, in all of the gameplay, the one thing we're not necessarily aware of is the exact difficulty that the developers are playing. Now, in the Nightwing, I almost say Knighthood, in the Nightwing Red Hood gameplay that was actually showcased in May, we got to see something that said very low difficulty when the map was opened in the Belfry. Here where Dick Grayson is walking around, I think he opens a map and he's looking at, say, the next mission. It shows the difficulty setting or possibly the difficulty of that mission as very low difficulty. So the unclear thing here is I'm not certain if the world or if the game mode for the player is set at very low difficulty, or if the mission itself is indicating that its difficulty is low and the player can probably have a field day with it. So this is where the challenge is. Some people have hypothesized that it means that the game was getting played in a lower difficulty. Hence, when Red Hood was fighting here, all these baddies seem to have been standing around and not necessarily doing anything. So here is pretty much what I think is going on with this AI, especially in this Red Hood segment here. I strongly believe that this isn't, kind of a basic AI structure where the AI is supposed to move to the player, and then when the AI is at a distance from the player, they probably maybe are designed to dilly-dally a little bit depending on the difficulty, and then they attack once they acquire the target. That's the character, and they try to hit them. Now in this case, it seems like this AI is really basic in terms of its difficulty setting. So yes, they're trying to hit Red Hood, but not unless, they are in some kind of a situation are they allowed to pretty much hit him. Also, there are moments of invulnerability. If you notice here, when he grabs this enemy AI, the other one that's close to him does not do anything to him until he's done. And then as he hits the other one away from him, that AI tries to attack. Now, most of you who watched the Red Hood skill tree reveal, you saw that there were actually some conditions where if Red Hood was doing something, he was invulnerable to enemy attacks. So you're going to have to go back and kind of look through all of these skills and then look at his playthrough and see, oh, this is probably what was going on at the time. And so the challenge that I'm having here is being able to judge the AI and then go ahead and figure out what in the heck conditions of his skills were actually being tapped into to make the AI behave like that. And this is why AI design is one of the most wonderful arts of game development, because you're not only just developing an AI, you're developing an AI that's going to respond to so many different things in the game. You're not only even developing different kinds of AI or different kinds of enemy classes in your AI, you're basically making, entirely different paradigms, for these NPCs that are antagonistic to you. So if you even look at one of his skills here, at Red Hood himself, there's a skill that if he performs a specific, move, it actually causes the other characters around, that enemy NPC to be afraid for, a period of time. So when you kind of think about it, you're like, okay, so is it that the enemies are afraid when he does something? Because you notice that in this Nightwing, Red Hood gameplay trailer, one of the enemy NPCs kind of runs away from him. Like he's fighting them and this enemy NPC just belts after he does something. And it's so weird. So if you look at him, the one in the red jacket, he runs away. I don't know why he does that. So that might be a fear mechanic that he's responding to as well. And another thing too is we would love to be able to kind of get a sense as to what difficulty they're playing the game on, so that we can kind of know how the AI actually responds, how aggressive they are, depending on your difficulty settings. And I think one way you can actually achieve this is by giving a demo to your audience so that they can kind of see what's going on here. This is where I've always kind of called out for a demo, because I think it really would answer a lot of these questions, because I don't necessarily think that this is the way or the state the AI is going to be at release. Sure, maybe if you play on easy difficulty, the AI is basically going to be acting like, yep, you just want to steamroll the game. Sure, come hit me. But perhaps if you're playing in a much more difficult setting, then you're going to get more aggression. Then you're going to have the AI act more intuitive. And I think that's probably what people want to see. They want to see intuitive AI that's behaving in a specific way. There are also AI paradigms as well that go with stealth in most of these games, especially if you're making a Batman game. You're going to design your AI to work with changing states depending on different scenarios. Like, here when Nightwing makes his way to this building, which is supposedly something that's housing a lair for the Court of Owls, he goes in from a stealth perspective. He does a takedown for these AI, characters here. Now, the thing is, when it comes to our time to play this, I'm sure we're going to have the option to go in guns blazing, and the AI is going to have to change state. Once it sees you, in quote, and I say see because AI can't see, you have to actually program some kind of a detection mechanism for the AI to actually, in quote, see the character. Then they behave a specific way. In fact, you see when he makes his way to the underground tunnel, the enemy AI there, they see him, in quote. And so as they see him, he starts to fight with them. So that's something that's, very interesting that we here, have to kind of consider. Exactly how the AI is going to work is a very complex topic that you cannot necessarily wrap your hands around until maybe they do an AI showcase and show us some cool aspects of the AI, or we get our hands on the game in terms of in regard to a demo and see how the AI is actually, or get a feel for it, or even, something that might be a middle ground is to actually have them show the difficulty settings in some combat scenarios so that we can know how this actually works. So these are my thoughts on AI. It's very basic and preliminary. I have been fortunate to work with AI design in Unreal Engine. It is a madhouse. I mean, it's fun to try to make AI, but I can tell you, it will really challenge your every fiber of your being, and you will hate the reason why you ever decided that you wanted to do it. So I respect AI designers from different, video game development firms. Some firms, they do it more than others. They add a lot of emphasis. Like if you look at Naughty Dog, they go all out. In fact, one of the first AI tutorials that I learned was from a developer who eventually got hired at Naughty Dog. And so I eventually thanked him on Twitter and told him that it was his own tutorial that actually kind of helped me understand some of the basic principles with Unreal Engine 4 AI. So I'd like to see it in a gameplay setting first, and then we can make our judgment from there. Because if we go ahead and say, oh, the AI is this based on this gameplay that we've seen, we might miss something. And so I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comment section. Thanks so much for watching the video. I appreciate you guys' time and audience, and hopefully we'll talk soon. Peace out.